So why don't we all start finding our seats? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, young man. How are you doing?
You want me to introduce him?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't go. I want you to say hello. Another picture? We're going to bring him right here. Don't buy that at all. Whenever I hear that no matter where it's at. That's what I. No, I just. It's the only thing I had.
I'm all about it, like the print, pattern, texture,
Yep.
right?
See, so that's why this
Print,
coat.
color, texture.
Feel it, and then you feel the tie.
Oh, is
And
that
they're the
silk?
same.
Is all this silk?
Yeah. So that way, if you're gonna flow right.
Yeah.
And can you take a picture with this student? She's the San Jose. And then one with the mayor too.
Yeah, and one with the mayor.
We'd like you
Mayor,
over here with
you
our.
can go in there and make it easier. Yeah, really easier. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Hi, how are you doing?
This is your show. Okay. Let's have a seat. Everyone, please have a seat, and then we're going to get started. Hey, Sam. Thank you, Sue. So, wait, I need. See, it would have worked. Soon. Okay. Are we ready to start? I'm watching. I never knew that he was, not only did he do all of our food preparation, but he also was guarding the door. Leno. Let's get started. First, this is one of those times that you have a holiday on the Friday, Good Friday. And I have to tell you that throughout the years, many years, there's at least 10 or 15 people that would try to cajole Victor into changing the day. And if you notice, we're still here on this Good Friday. Just want you to know that we haven't given up. We're just trying to take a breath before we attack it again. So with that, we're going to have the invocation by our chief.
Thank you, Bob. If everyone can please bow your heads and pray with me. O Lord, the spring and Easter season is upon us, which signifies a new beginning. Grant us mercy so that we may celebrate these new beginnings in everything that we do. We gather here tonight to be part of those new beginnings so that we may enrich the lives of others. Lord, grant us wisdom to discuss and understand each other's viewpoints, and give us the courage to accept solutions that will benefit our entire community. And Lord, please continue to bless us. We ask this in your name. Amen.
He is going to introduce the interim, police chief. But before he does that, we meet once a month, and we don't always get to meet at a time that allows us to say what's in our hearts. And I always believe that a good goodbye is more important than a good hello, because it tells you over time what that relationship was. And you'd be shocked at what I saw the other night on TV. So Tim, do you want to?
He spent nearly 3 decades serving the community of San Jose. Now police chief and Anthony Mata is only hours away from turning in his badge. The chief is moving on to lead the investigations team at the district attorney's office. But before his move, an emotional Mata sat down exclusively with our Damian Trujillo to talk about his service to San Jose.
He sat at this desk for 3 years. His collar and his gold badge show his rank. On his sleeve, each stripe represents 5 years of service. Today, San Jose Police Chief Tony Mata said not until now did he imagine what it would be like to take off that badge for the last time.
I know it's going to be emotional, given that I've been here for 28 years, serving the community and leading, the amazing men and women here.
Mata rose up the ranks from beat cop to homicide detective to robbery detective. The last 3 years as the top cop. Those 3 years had their ups and downs for the chief, having to rebuild the trust of the community after the defund the police movement. A myriad of officers themselves getting into trouble with the law, leading to this watershed moment. The chief personally walking one of those officers out the door after firing him.
To hold folks accountable, because we are provided with a lot of authority, right? And with that authority, comes accountability and transparency, and I think that that's something that this department has always done well.
Mata believes that moment was the beginning of the rebuilding of public trust. Mata is proud of where the department is headed. The homicide unit continues to solve 100% of its cases. Police reforms have been implemented when it comes to responding to mental health incidents, and the department is tracking car stops to determine the reason for the stop in an effort to eliminate biases. On Friday, this will be his message to the troops on his last weekday of briefing.
Not to forget why they took this oath, right, and why they're wearing this badge and this patch, is to help our community. And just keep on working hard, because we have something special here.
On Saturday, Chief Mata will turn in badge number 3324, a moment he still can't describe.
It's me. It's I can't explain it.
Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
Chief, come here, you can't get that far. Damian does an exceptional job of talking about his time here. It's like one of our family members deciding to move over to something different. I take a look and I see a few uniformed officers and leaders. Is somebody here from the DA's office? Next time you have to bring them too.
Yes.
But it's important. The job of police officers, and the chief especially, is difficult. Even when people agree with you, it's difficult. And I can tell you that I am really sorry to see him go, even though it's just across the parking lot. It's more important that there are persons in that position as chief that remembers the community that he is serving. So, and we want to thank you for all the things you've done, for constantly coming back to this meeting, sharing what's going on. And we still expect you to come back and still be our chaplain. And if you could introduce the new interim.
Sure. And thank you, Bob. And again, thank you for La Raza Roundtable, Don Victor, right, Bob, Rose, Conexión, and everyone else here for your unwavering support, not only of this police department, but of me during my not only 3 years as chief, but my whole 28 years here. And just know that even though I'm moving across the street, like Bob said, I'm here for you. I'm here for this community, and I will continue to be here to serve and help any way I can. So thank you all for your help in that. And with that, I'm going to introduce the interim police chief, Paul Joseph. If Paul can come up here. Paul is a 30-year veteran here, and I'll let him talk about all his accomplishments and so forth. But he's been my right-hand man here during the last 3 years. I appointed Paul as assistant chief when I became the chief 3 years ago. He was only a captain, so he skipped the rank of deputy chief. And the reason why is because I knew I can trust in him, and a very intelligent man. And he's been with me through those difficult times that were shown here on TV. And I know, given the foundation that we laid here the last 3 years, holding people accountable, making this police department the best that we can, at the highest levels that San Jose has always been and we want to continue to be. I know that the department's in good hands when Paul takes over here on Sunday. So I want to introduce Paul Joseph to you, and he can talk about himself. But Paul.
Chief, thank you very much for those kind words. And like Bob said, this is more about a good goodbye to Chief Mata, or until we see you, than it is about me. But I would just like to say that it's been my honor to partner with Chief Mata for the last 3 years. My joke was always that his first decision was to make me his assistant, so I don't know what that said about his judgment, but I think it worked out, I really do. And I really very much want to continue the great work that he has done, the things that we've done to change this department and to make it more accessible to you and to make it more a reflection of what you want from your police department. So with that, I look forward to serving you, and anytime you wish me to be here, I'm honored and humbled to be invited, Mr. Garza.
We're here every last Friday of the month.
As I will be too. All right.
So you're welcome to join us all the time, like Chief Mata did, and Chief Covarrubias, and Chief Eddie Garcia, and others.
Indeed, I will. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations.
So whoever turn it was to ask Victor to move the meetings, he gave you his answer already again. Sure.
Let me share one thing. One of the good things about Chief Mata is that she's not living town. She's living the chief of police department, but she's going to be at the district attorney's office. So he's still accessible to all of us, and that's something that's great. I want you guys to know, those of you who have known Eddie Garcia, Chief Eddie Garcia, I was with him last week up in Dallas, okay? I may be 86 years old, and I may be needing help wheeling me around in a wheelchair, but I get where I want to go. And I did, and we worked together there. You know. So anyway, Chief Garcia said to say hi to everybody, and here I am saying, hi to everybody on behalf of Chief Eddie Garcia. And he was very happy that a couple of other people and myself, actually there were 5, that we ended up in his office, and an organization I'm involved with is looking forward at working together with Chief Eddie Garcia and opening some programs in Dallas, Texas, because that's where he's at. He's in Dallas, Texas. And that has to do a lot with juveniles and trying to reduce crime. And we have programs throughout the country, an organization I'm involved with, and nationally. And we want to go help Dallas. And that's where he's at. And so he helped me organize some leaders that we're meeting with and talking, and hopefully helping us open those offices up in Dallas, Texas. Okay? Thank you.
But right now, it's San Jose.
And we're doing that in San Jose.
So we're going to start with introductions, so you know who's here, who they're representing. We're going to start right here. If you stand up, give your name and who you're representing.
Hi everybody, my name is Betty Yoon. I spend my days serving as chief of staff and supervisor father, but right now I'm on my off time. So after hours and on weekends, thank you. After hours and on weekends, I'm a candidate for Santa Clara County Supervisor District 2. Cindy's terming out at the end of the year, and I'm working my hardest to be able to succeed her. Thank you. Oh, and Chief Mata, welcome to the county.
Hi, my name is Andrea Martinez, and I'm here representing Betty's campaign. I'm her campaign manager, and we look forward to working in partnership with all of you.
This keeps going down.
Well, let me give you the Water District blessing. I'm Richard Santos, your director of Santa Clara Valley Water District, along with my friend Tony Estamera from the Water District. So, thank you.
And I'm Tony Estamera, and I'm with our vice chair.
Ramon Martinez from La Raza Historical Society.
What happened? Rose Amador, CEO of Conexión to Community and Native Voice TV.
Phoebe Melendez, Liquid Restaurant and Lounge.
And I'm Joe Melendez, yes, Liquid Restaurant and Lounge.
Hello, my name is Jaime Jimenez, and I'm with San Jose PD.
Jose Guerrero, and I am a board member with the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ+ Community Center.
It has a long string of uninterrupted visits to this meeting.
I'm Tammy Nguyen, and I'm on the board of Connection to Community.
My name is Chilton Chow, and I'm a sophomore at Gunn High School, and I'm the vice president of Vietnamese Culture Club.
My name is Sylvie Nguyen. I'm a sophomore at Gunn High School and a reporter for my school's publication, The Oracle. I'm the founder and president of Vietnamese Culture Club, and Chilton and I are here to learn and bring back La Raza's service and allyship to my school.
So stop right there if we could just for a second. First, she was going to hand that off to her father, and the fact that she didn't surprises me. But having high school students here, knowing that I'm from Eastside Union High School District, it never leaves me. Thank you for coming. She is looking for an internship as a reporter. And I've seen some of the things that she sent them to me. She's an exceptional reporter, and she's looking at what she can do to start a career in social justice, writing for newspapers, periodicals, you name it.
Dr. Peter Nguyen, family physician here locally for the last 20 years, and board member of Connection.
Hey everyone, my first time here. My name is Dr. Nikki Citarella. I have been servicing Morgan Hill Unified School District, and I am looking forward to embarking on something new coming up. I'm also on the board of Corazon Care.
Good evening and a peaceful Good Friday. I'm Herman Vasquez, co-founder of La Raza Roundtable.
Good evening, my name is Sam Ho with the San Jose Evergreen Community College District.
And before Sam hands it off, I was going to thank him for getting me appointed to the CBOC, right, for the community college until I went to my first meeting. and found out they actually do work. So I owe you one, Sam. But thank you very much, because it's very interesting work.
Sam Ho has been coming to our meeting for over 20 years. And he has been a long supporter of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that, Sam. And, you know, we're working together. Let's continue to work together and do good things for our community.
Thank you.
Catherine McBain from the Office of the Independent Police Auditor, and I'm here today to keep an eye on all these officers here.
Zeke Garcia, retired Dean of San Jose City College, and currently I'm the Chairman of the Board of Trustees for the San Jose Elks Lodge.
Zeke, Dean Garcia, 24 years ago, introduced me to La Raza Roundtable. I'm here because of him. Thank you.
I made a good choice.
Some of us have been here quite a while. Thank you. Thank you. And I guess you've been keeping busy. Dennis King, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. No, I think in the name of peace, when you're having your chat with Eddie, our good friend in Dallas, I assume in peace that you were not talking about football. Anyway, enough said of that.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tara Sri Krishnan. I serve on the Santa Clara County Board of Education and just advanced to the general election as a candidate for State Assembly in District 26. So I see the farm workers flag and Dolores Huerta's portrait here. I've earned both of their endorsements in my race, so honored to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Garcia. I'm on Mayor Mahan's team, and I focus on public safety policy.
So you met me, but I'd like to just say that Jaime Jimenez isn't just with the San Jose Police Department. He's our Deputy Chief for the Bureau of Field Operations and outstanding member of the team.
Thanks, Chief. I'm Damon Silver. I'm from the Santa Clara County Public Defender's Office. Good evening.
And we have settled, right?
Yes, well, my boss and I will be here at the end of May, at the May meeting, to present.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us, Bob.
Yeah.
And Victor.
I know you don't know me. I'm Gabrielle Antolovich. I'm with the Billy DeFrank Center, and I first met Chief Mata when he was captain on the east side, and I first met Bob Nunez when he was the superintendent of East Side Union High School District, and I've been around a long time. And so have you. But I have to say, La Raza Roundtable has remained stably amazing. So thank you for everyone who keeps it going.
Hello, I'm Helen Moreno. I'm retired from San Jose PD, but I'm here representing tax prep advocates. And happy Easter to everyone.
My name is Alberto Carrillo Sr. I've been a previous member of Confederación de la Raza Unida. That doesn't mean a lot to some of you. But Confederación de la Raza Unida was around a long time. Victor was part of that. You were part of that, Maria. And many of us that grew up in trying to get the city and the county to hire Latinos and Latinas and black people. Okay, for the number of years, we used to protest every city council meeting. I spent 25 years in MAPA, Mixed American Political Association, 25 years with the Office of Human Relations in the county, and I'm still going strong with other groups. Thank you.
Lori Ramos Chavez, Vice President here at Conexión.
Hi, this is my first time here. I'm Amparo Rios. I am the Executive Director of Joyful Educational Development Center. We do programs for children and families here in Santa Clara County.
Tony Mata, Police Chief here for San Jose for the next 2 days. And Lhasa Menti still. And future I'll be at the District Attorney's Office.
Maria Fuentes. I'm a trustee with the San Jose City and Evergreen Community College District. And I just want to mention, I can't really announce this yet, but Interim Chancellor Beatriz Chaidez, who was our speaker last month, is under negotiations with our board to become the permanent chancellor at our district. And it won't be official until we appoint her at our next, at our next board meeting. But I just wanted to share. Okay.
Thank you.
Maria and I go back to around 1971, 72. The same thing with Dr. Martinez and the same thing with Rose.
Not with me.
Yes, we were both counselor aides at the EOP program at San Jose State. And I go back, way back with Ramon, because if it wasn't for Ramon Martinez, I would not be here. He recruited me from Bakersfield College.
Hi everybody, my name is Leilani Gomez. I'm a staffer for Mayor Matt Mahan on his neighborhood outreach team.
But before she passes, you should know that one of the hardest jobs there is being a staffer to any elected official, but I really believe to this mayor, mostly because he is one of the most punctual people I've ever met. And as you notice, we keep sort of sliding on our timelines. That's just who we are, Mayor. I apologize for that. But she is exceptional at trying to keep us within the lines, and I appreciate that even more.
Hi, my name is Robert Bible with San Jose PD.
Misael Lugo, Community Outreach for District 7.
Well, my staff know how to get to me sometimes. But anyway, my name is Bien Duan. I'm your city councilor in District 7. The La Raza has open arms to me and come and work together with us and how we bridge our community together. And I want to say thank you.
You don't need to, we're going to introduce you. All right. So now you know who's in the room. And they came to hear you. And one of the things I've noticed about our mayor is that some persons would say, we really want to gather information from the community. And then I read a month later what the community said, having not heard from anybody, not talked to anybody, not met with anybody. That is not true with this mayor. I've gotten more invitations to more places to get input from citizens, groups, outside agencies and it's consistent almost every area that you're looking for information or input on. So we appreciate that because it's not always the case, but you're exceptional at it. And I do know, after seeing the things that come out, that you actually use some of that information too. So I don't want to take any of your time. So he's going to come up. We're going to be talking about, I'll let him decide what he's going to talk about, but it's going to sort of be in two stages because there's also going to be a presentation. So I'm going to take my water and sit down.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Mahan, mayor here in San Jose. And just to preface remarks, I do have a few slides, but I really want to thank Bob and Victor for inviting me. We had a great conversation last year around the budget, and that's part of, I think, why the timing is what it is. But it's great to be here with you all. I mean, just the collective wisdom of this group, the years of experience, the community leaders who are part of La Raza is just kind of overwhelming. It's really impressive to see everybody who's assembled here. And at the risk of being repetitive, I have to say just a couple of words about our chief. It's been such a pleasure to work with Chief Mata. And I won't go on and on because it is maybe repetitive, but you know, the chief has really emphasized a culture of community engagement and getting officers out into the community, building relationships, getting to know people, and having that open door, and then transparency and accountability. And what more can you ask for from your police department, from your leaders, your public leadership? It's just been an inspiration to watch how Chief Mata's led the department. He will be missed. I know we're in good hands. I look forward to working with, I've been working with Interim Chief Joseph, and I know he's going to do a fantastic job as well. So just want you to know we're really grateful, Chief, for your 28 years of service, and I am glad that you're just kind of going across the street, as they say, to continue serving the community. So, Victor, Bob, thank you for having me. We are a little behind schedule. That's okay. I understand. I married a Latina. I understand. I know how it goes. I don't mind. And I can run a little over. So what we had planned to do was about 20 minutes of presentation. I'll try to be efficient. About 20 minutes of questions, and then kind of socializing and food and just hanging out. There's probably more on the slide deck than I can get to, but we've just kicked off our budget process, and it's probably the most important thing we do in the city every year. We spend $6 billion of your dollars. Most of the discussion and debate is around about $1.4 billion in what we call our general fund. Those are the more flexible dollars. The rest of it is running the airport, running the wastewater treatment center. We can't really change that. That's fee-based. We provide a service, we charge you a fee. But the general fund, we can make trade-offs, and we have to prioritize. And that leads to a lot of really difficult conversations, especially in a year like this one where we're facing a deficit. So I just want to transparently walk you through where we are, some of the priorities that were in my March budget message, some of the debate that we're going to have, and then I want to hear your questions and comments and your feedback, because this process goes all the way to June. In mid-June, we vote on the budget, and then it's locked in, and we start spending your tax dollars July 1st based on what the budget says. So why don't we jump in? Is there a clicker or anything, or do I just say next slide? All right. So let me first and I'm going to try to fly through this, and I apologize for how quickly I'm going to go, and then we'll get to your clarifying questions. Some recent updates before we get into budget. We just passed a local tenant preference policy, which is a big deal. We had to get, thanks to Senator Cortese, we actually got basically the state legislature to support us to do this, because what we're able to do now is preferentially offer new affordable housing units to people who live in the community. And we had a really sad case of where we built a brand new affordable housing department. We spent a bunch of our taxpayer dollars. We taxed ourselves. We asked the neighbor to accept new housing and more traffic, and then nobody in the neighborhood who was at risk of displacement got access to any of the housing. And so we're able to now set aside a portion of the units for people who are low income in that neighborhood. Plaza de Cesar Chavez, with a partnership with the J. Paul Company, just got a major refresh in time for spring. If you get a chance downtown, it's worth walking through. It's looking, it's spruced up and looking really nice. Fire Training Center and Emergency Operations Center, we just officially cut the ribbon on yesterday. We really needed these facilities, and they were only possible thanks to all of you passing Measure T. And this is how we ensure that our first responders are properly trained and have the equipment they need to respond when we need help. And then already this year, we have opened 320 new affordable housing units across 3 different projects. Again, funded with your taxpayer dollars. You told us you want to prioritize building affordable housing through Measure A at the county level, through Measure E at the city level, and we've been collaborating to build affordable housing. So 3 openings already this year. We do an annual survey of the community's priorities, and these will not surprise you. These first 5 were off the charts. The next one was I don't know, and then everything else, roads and parks and all the rest. So number 1, of course, by far, addressing homelessness, and particularly unsheltered homelessness, people living in tents and vehicles. Provide more affordable housing. Cost of living is high, and housing's the number 1 reason for that. Improve public safety and crime, right below affordable housing. Beautify the city. People driving around saying a lot of graffiti and trash and all the rest. And improving police presence and response, and that's really a staffing issue more than anything. So you see a couple public safety and police related. If you add them up, maybe that's number 2, I don't know. And then, of course, affordable housing, homelessness, and beautification. Let's keep going. So it won't surprise you that even though our economy is slowing down a little and we have less revenue and we're facing a significant budget deficit, I'm sticking with those same priorities. And to Bob's point, it's not just the survey data. When I was running for mayor, I went out and personally knocked on over 10,000 doors. And I heard the exact same thing. I just got yelled at a lot more at people's doorsteps about these issues, but I heard it over and over and over again. So the priorities are, again, the same thing: addressing homelessness, building affordable housing, investing in community safety, cleaning up our neighborhoods. And then I add this last one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because we don't have a lot of time tonight, but I always want to remind folks, if we aren't a place where people can start new businesses, invest in building new housing, if we're not a place that's friendly to investment, we're never going to be able to grow and have the tax revenue that we need to fund all the other services we want. Because you'll notice that tonight in my very short presentation, I'm not going to be able to go deep into parks and libraries and after-school programs, all the other things that the city wants to do more of, but we frankly don't have the dollars to do right now. And that's a function of tax revenue more than anything. So we are doing some things to try to streamline permit approvals, cap fees, and be a friendlier place for people to invest in housing and business creation. Okay, so what are the financial realities this year? Last year we had a much easier job. We were fighting over how to spend a $30 million surplus. This year we're looking at about a $52 million deficit. And I want to just highlight for you, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more in the next slide, but this middle column, the $25 million in the middle row, for stormwater permit requirements is a new issue that's emerging that I want to make sure you have some context on. So we have just our deficit up there, just $3.6 million, some new obligations under the Clean Water Act, and then $23.5 million in essential services we funded on a one-time basis and we no longer have the funding for. And that means a service cut if we don't find some other trade-off to make. So structurally, we're about $52 million in deficit this year. Let's keep going. Stormwater permit. Okay, you've all heard of the Clean Water Act. That is enforced at the local level by a regional water quality control board. They have let us know that they are no longer satisfied with the job we're doing to keep our waterways clean. Even though we do cleanups and we've been installing technology to capture water in the trash in the sewer system, we are potentially at risk of being in violation of the Clean Water Act. If that is true, they can fine us $60,000 per day per pollutant in the water. And there are hundreds of potential pollutants in the water. I mean, it could literally drive the city to bankruptcy and defund all of our essential services. What this means, to boil it down, is over the next few years, we're going to have to figure out how to move over 1,000 people out of our waterways and get to nearly zero trash, bio-waste, other contaminants, pollutants going into the waterways. This is a big deal. The mandate is there. Nobody's giving us funding to do anything new. So we're going to have to get much more pragmatic to figure out how we do this. Let's keep going. How did we get here? We don't have time for a long history lesson on homelessness, and everybody's got different perspectives, but I think it's clear that there have been public policy failures across the way. We have not properly invested in housing. We've made it very difficult and expensive to build housing, even market rate housing, frankly. We haven't invested enough in affordable housing. We've been victims of our own success. We've had job growth, 6 jobs created for every house we've built in our region. That's a big driver of this crisis. We also defunded our mental health hospital system and have a lack of inpatient treatment capacity. We are not doing enough to address the crisis of addiction, and particularly with fentanyl, which has changed the game in a lot of ways. Our school system is not doing enough to prepare our young people for this economy. So you can add it up to a variety of societal failures. If we go to the next slide, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing to address our homelessness crisis. And just to put it in perspective, we have almost 5,000 people living on our streets in San Jose right now, any given moment. One thing we've been doing a lot of is building interim housing, because we realized that about 15 years ago, when the state adopted a fairly rigid housing first policy, we stopped investing in shelter. And the policy was right in a lot of ways, but what we failed to do was continue to meet the immediate need of people who were falling into homelessness, to stabilize them and get them connected to services. And we have allowed a very large population to become chronically homeless out on our streets for a very long time. So part of the strategy here is to cost effectively use prefabricated modular units to get people into a stable environment faster, because we know if we leave people out on the streets for a year or 2 years or 3 years, it becomes very hard for them to ever turn their lives around. So this is what's still in the pipeline. We have almost 800 interim units that we are building out over the next 18 months. We can keep going. We're also investing in affordable housing. These are permanent affordable units. They're denser, they last longer. Unfortunately, they're very expensive and slow to build, but we need it. And so we are also, alongside the county and the state and other partners, building affordable housing. Over the last 4 years, we've invested over $250,000 alongside $950 million from the county in affordable housing. Just last year, despite what you might read in the paper, I do support affordable housing. Just last year, as directed by my budget message, we released another $50 million for affordable housing projects in the city of San Jose. And in this budget message, I talk a lot about streamlining the permitting process so we can get projects out the door faster and therefore build them more cheaply, more cost effectively, I should say. But here's the reality. With the fact that we have 5,000 people on the streets, we have a $50 million deficit, and now we're at risk of being out of compliance with the Clean Water Act, and probably half of our homeless population, roughly, is living along our waterways. We're going to have to lean into much more scalable solutions. One that we've talked about in the past and the council has rejected, but I'm putting back on the agenda, is safe sleeping sites. That means finding empty public land where we can line up in nice, neat rows, very substantial tents, the kind of tents you can stand up in and have a cot in, give people their own little private space, have on-site security, sanitation, meals, and some basic services, but we can't wait. And again, the longer we leave people out there, it's terrible for them and for the environment and for the whole community. The estimated impact of leaving someone in unsheltered homelessness is on the order of $65,000 a year in impacts. That's just the measurable ones. That's police and fire response, emergency room visits, trash pickup and environmental remediation, and all the rest. So safe sleeping is a strategy we're going to need to lean into. Safe parking is something we've started doing and we're going to continue to expand. That's for those living in vehicles, because about a third of our unhoused population on the streets of San Jose are actually living in cars and RVs. We can talk more about that if you're interested. Congregate shelter, this is something your council member here, Councilmember Dewan has championed. You know, these sprung structures and other kind of more scalable forms. There are challenges to congregate shelter, but when you need to get a lot of people into a managed environment quickly, it's an option we have to look at, even though we would prefer not to. Homeward Bound, being more proactive about letting field outreach workers identify folks who have family they can get to and help spend dollars to get them reconnected with family faster. We do this once someone is in shelter. We should be doing it through our field outreach teams. They do this in San Francisco and many other places. And then prevention. One of the big challenges, of course, is the number of people flowing into homelessness is happening faster than those who were getting out of homelessness. Now, easier said than done. We've done a lot of great work around prevention. Then again, the need for rental assistance is astronomical. It runs into the hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, per year. So we have to be very careful about figuring out who is most at risk of falling into homelessness as we spend our limited dollars to expand prevention strategies. So that's all in the budget message. Let's keep going. We also, and this is a minor point, but you know, the community has lost faith that we can address this problem. There's a lot of skepticism, which, by the way, creates a negative cycle, because then it becomes hard for us to go back to the community and ask for more money for things. We can't pass Measure T today or another Measure A if the community doesn't believe that we're actually able to solve big problems. And so one of the strategies, and we're doing this thoughtfully, nobody is interested in criminalizing homelessness, just to be clear. But when we clear sensitive public space where people really shouldn't be living because it's environmentally sensitive or because it's just fundamentally unsafe. This is a case where one individual who has still not come in and seems to have some behavioral health issues was literally digging a trench under the freeway. I mean, that is a serious risk. We have decided we're going to start to preserve our progress. We're going to start to find places where once we resolve homelessness, ideally by getting people indoors, and we clear an area, we're going to start to expand no return zones so that we can better manage the areas where it's safer to have people and so that we can show the community progress. Let's keep going. And that's going to be especially important along our waterways, by the way. We have to do that carefully. We have to offer people shelter, and we have to have enough shelter capacity, but we need to start reducing the area we're trying to manage because it's just overwhelming. We have started to see a trend, thank you Chief Mata and leadership in the department. We're finally, after a 5-year troubling trend of fewer and fewer applications. We're beginning to see that turn around. Last year in the budget, we put more money in for outreach and marketing and recruitment. We're going to continue to sustain a high level of investment in that, so we have more young people considering public safety careers. We've expanded an automatic license plate network that, when paired with Air 3, the department's helicopter, is making us more effective, more efficient at addressing a whole range of crime. And if there are questions on that, I'm sure the department can share more than I'd be able to do. We're also, continuing a conversation about alternative response. We want to partner closely with the county to find cases where a 911 call doesn't have to dispatch an officer with a gun, or maybe it's an officer with a gun along with a clinician, or maybe you can just go to a clinician or a social worker if it's a lower risk call. So we've done some recent analysis on our 911 calls, and it's a conversation, I talk about this a bit in the budget message, we really want to have with our partners at the county and in the nonprofit sector, because we recognize not every call requires somebody with a badge and a gun to respond, and that's a good thing, because our officers would rather be focused on the serious criminals and the issues that they're best equipped to handle. We can keep going. So continuing on this point, I think I kind of made it, but focusing on recruitment and retention, continuing to invest in technology, and then of course collaborating with other partners. Let's keep going. Beautification last year was our biggest investment ever. I hope you're starting to see a little bit of a difference on our streets. We removed almost 10 million pounds of trash. We had volunteers come out and take 500,000 of that off without having to use taxpayer dollars to do it. So thank you to all of you who joined us for one of our weekend cleanups. We took about 3 million square feet of graffiti down and responded to over 300,000 311 calls. If you're not using 311, I'd encourage you to check it out. We're continuing to invest in our 311 services. We can go to the next slide here. Again, a little bit repetitive on what we're doing. One thing I'll note on graffiti is an illegal dumping. We're going to have to step up enforcement and be targeted in that, because the cost of addressing graffiti and illegal dumping every year is going up faster than our tax revenue is. It's eating up the budget. We're seeing increases of 15–20% per year in the cost of cleanup. We have got to get upstream of that. So yes, we're doing some education, but frankly, it's a very small number of bad actors who are repeat bad actors, and we've got to send a message and set an expectation culturally that we're not okay with people tagging the freeway signs or pulling their truck over and dumping all their trash on the side of the road. And the sooner that we can send that message, the better we're going to be at controlling this increase that's just eating up our budget and not doing much for you. We're just spending an astronomical amount of money cleaning up after a few bad actors. Let's keep going, because we're okay, that was it. All right. So the budget message is a lot longer than that. It goes through many other issues. It's about 25 pages. We can send it around. It's the mayor's March budget message, and it really lays out why we have a budget deficit, what the stormwater issue is, and a whole range of issues. But I just wanted to hit a few highlights and then see what kind of questions that sparked for all of you. So thanks again for having me, and look forward to hearing your questions. Yeah, you bet.
Don't go too far.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to take a few questions, but then we're going to spend some time to, as he said, to have a meal together, and then feel free to come up and ask your questions directly of him. So maybe he can give you more than a 30-second response. And also, we're on Facebook Live and on radio stations.
Oh,
so
great.
if
Cool.
there's an email or something we can put out, that the persons out there can also send that into you?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have our mayor@sanjoseca.gov email, and maybe we can also add a link to the message for people who want to read the whole message.
Okay. So I just ask that you get the microphone. I'll take it.
You want me to take it around?
I'll
or
take
you're
it.
doing
You
that?
can-
I stay here. Okay, I got it.
I'm just going to work my way down the aisle.
Thank you, Mayor, for coming and as usual and explaining everything. But I've been through this stuff for 56 years, and I'm not knocking you. You're brand new and it starts all over again. But every time we have Prop 13, COVID, we have budget cuts, whatever, the low-income minority areas always suffer because the excuses are, oh, we can't do this. But it doesn't happen in Willow Glen. You and I have been through this in Alviso, and so Pato Arroyo, we can go on and on. That's reality. And we have to stop this nonsense because we never catch up. We're always behind.
Yeah.
So I appreciate, and I know the challenges you have. It's a difficult job.
Yeah.
That's why you're elected, and it comes with the territory. But thank you again
Yeah.
for whatever you do.
Well, Rich, I appreciate your comment, and I hope that this time, because you're right, this is a tough moment we're in. It's a slowdown, it's a reduction in revenue, it's a budget deficit, and that means cutting services. This time around, I don't want to pretend that it's going to be perfect, but I think we're much better positioned than we ever have been to take a racial equity lens and to look at the disparate impacts of the cuts we're making. And now we actually have a framework in place for looking at specific census tracts. And when we make an incremental investment or an incremental cut, we actually have data to understand who we're impacting for the first time. We have an Office of Racial Equity. The voters told us at the ballot box to prioritize this. And we're getting better. We're not perfect, but we're getting better at saying, if we have a little more money, I'll give you a real example, we have a little more money to invest in scholarships for after-school programs, which census tract should those be in? And they're not in Willow Glen, they're in East Side. And the same with when we're cutting back park services, those cuts may not be equal, but the goal is to make sure that we're getting as close to an equality of outcome around city services as possible. So we're getting better at having the frameworks and the data for understanding when we make a cut or when we have a little extra funding, who are we really helping or hurting? And it's not perfect, but we are taking income and race into account in a much more rigorous way than we ever were able to in government. And I think that's progress. It's not perfect, but I think we're in a better place than we've ever been. That doesn't mean these cuts are going to be painless.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm just wondering, do you take the same lens when deciding where low-income housing will be built? For example, Quetzal Gardens, which is a relatively new development, was put right in 95116, which has the highest density in the city. Highest population density in the city. So I'm just wondering, are you taking the same lens when you're doing something like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We do. We have it's a newer policy, so it was not in place when Quetzal Gardens was built. But we have an affordable housing siting policy. And part of the intention behind it is to make sure we are distributing affordable housing, including into higher resource neighborhoods, so that low-income residents who are getting into that affordable housing may have access to schools that are performing higher, to other amenities. So we are trying to spread that out. That being said, a lot of the feedback we get from the communities, we want the affordable housing here. We don't mind it being built in our neighborhood, but we want it to also benefit us. And that's why we did that local preference, because it isn't right to ask people to tax themselves, ask them to say yes to more neighbors, more noise, more traffic, less parking in a big new building, and then have no one in the community who's at risk of displacement actually get a place. And so we're trying to fix that, and we're trying to listen to the community on this tension between how much should we be spreading everything out versus building the housing in the communities where it's most needed. And that's a balancing act that really has to be driven by the community's feedback. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Is the city working with the county to address homelessness?
Yeah, we have a community plan to end homelessness that is put together really between city, county, our housing authority has a seat at the table, and then typically it's primarily our nonprofit partners who are doing a lot of the either affordable housing construction or the service provision at our various sites. And so it's a very broad-based, diverse set of stakeholders who put together the plan. To be very transparent with you, my one critique has been that I think we've allowed ourselves to fall into a situation in which we've identified the right answer for the long term in almost an academic sense. We can look at all these studies and all this research and say, well, long term, the answer is we've just got to build a lot of affordable housing. But I don't think, and I think this is changing. We're coming to a more balanced place now, which I think is a good thing. I think we have underestimated the urgency of the moment for our unhoused neighbors who are condemned to live and die. Literally over 200 people a year die in our encampments. The impacts on the broader community, on the environment. And I'm not sure that we, in kind of turning the dial, you have a limited amount of dollars. I'm not sure that we made the right allocation of investment But I think we're finding more of a balance because I think the community's demanding it. And it's one of the things it's not easy. Clearly, we need more resources, and there's a regional housing measure that may give us the opportunity to bring more resources to bear. But, you know, I spend a lot of time in other cities in the country. And in most other cities, big cities in this country, outside of California, you do not see the kind of tent encampments we have. And in most of those cities, particularly in the Northeast, in the Midwest, they're shelter first. Does anybody know why they're shelter first cities? Why you don't see tent encampments everywhere? The weather. And what does the weather do? The weather is a forcing function. It forces elected officials to be really pragmatic. Those states are all shelter first states. They say by law, you have to have at least a shelter bed for every person who's on the streets because it is unethical and politically infeasible to allow people to freeze to death on the street. We don't have that forcing function. Now, this stormwater issue starts to become more of a forcing function. It's a legal mandate for us to get people out of the waterways, and we can't just send them into your neighborhoods. So we're getting closer to that. And it's not perfect. Congregate shelter is not great. But the worst thing we can do is leave people in completely unsafe, unmanaged tent encampments for years on end to be victims of the elements and organized crime and all the rest. And I think we have underestimated the impacts of it and the urgency that this moment demands, and we're going to have to be more balanced in our approach. But we do work very closely with a variety of partners, and the county is critical. We can't end homelessness locally without the county stepping up in a big way. And they've done that, but we need more from them, particularly around inpatient treatment for mental health and addiction.
What is the interim housing, and if that means temporary, what's the permanent solution?
Great question. So that's why we need an all-of-the-above strategy, because the interim solutions are meant to be transitional. They're meant to be interim, meaning we would like someone to be there for a few months to stabilize. 6 months is kind of the target, and then to get on to something more permanent at that point. That's the goal. And in fact, we've been pretty successful at that. But if you don't have anywhere for people to go, then people get stuck in interim. So thus far, as we've had pretty good balance, what we're finding is in our interim units, the average length of stay is 6 to 9 months, depending on the site. We don't kick people out, though. We have some folks at some of our interim sites who have been there a couple of years, for whatever reason. But we try to get people connected with a permanent, affordable situation. Typically, their own apartment could be moving back in with family. That happens about 10% of the time. So there are different exits people find. I just think it's kind of like when the house is on fire, like you got to focus on that. I want to get people stabilized with their own bed, ideally their own room with a door that locks, with 3 meals a day, with basic safety and some connection to case management. And that's the tension, is do we wait for the long-term perfect solution, or do we stabilize more people faster? And I think we've got to kind of do a bit of both, frankly. I don't think it can be either or.
Mayor, it irks me a lot when I see people put, things out on the street for somebody to pick them up. Is there like an ordinance, or how's that handled?
Yeah, so that would be potentially a violation of our illegal dumping laws. That being said, there are cases where that's perfectly fine if you're using 311. So our 311 app has a free junk pickup service. So you can use 311 to schedule a pickup. But to be clear, you're only allowed to put the materials out that morning, and it's scheduled. And you have to pre-clear which things are going to get picked up. I have a mattress and a chair and a whatever. And so, yes, some people are just putting stuff out and hoping somebody's going to pick it up, and that is breaking the law. It's not right, and we need to educate people. When I talk about illegal dumping, though, I'm primarily talking about those unscrupulous haulers and contractors who decide that it's easier and saves them money to pull over in the dark of night somewhere and just empty the bed of the truck out on the side of the road and keep going. And we see a lot of that, and so that's where I think enforcement comes in. Because we got kind of lax during the pandemic, and we've just seen steady, year over year, 15, 20% growth in these things. Hey.
Hi. I'm so glad you put prevention in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know that environmental prevention specialists exist throughout the Bay Area, but because we've been so crisis-oriented, a lot of the specialists have been neglected and their expertise has not been looked at. And what I'm talking about is so many times the police say, well, we can't do anything because there's no code that we can enforce. There's no, there's no hours of a liquor store that we can do anything about. We can't do anything about the content of convenience stores that only have an alcohol and beverage license to sell wine and beer, but we know they're selling hard liquor. So I'm looking at, is there a possibility of having some kind of roundtable so that City Council, code enforcement, alcohol and beverage control, and San Jose PD can work out more teeth where there's too many liquor licenses, that where there's, you're not allowed to have more than a certain number of liquor licenses in a square mile, and yet there are some areas where there's too many. There's got to be something that can be done to change the environment so that it makes it safer and gives San Jose Police the teeth to do their job, and that the neighborhoods get safer and you don't have convenience stores selling hard liquor late at night, and there's trash everywhere, and they're breaking into cars and all kinds of things because of the environment allows it.
Yeah. Yes, there are things we can do. In fact, we recently rejected an application for a liquor license in a neighborhood where we felt there was both an overconcentration and we had some real concerns about the owner and some of their behaviors. And so we do, between our planning commission and our council, have the ability to regulate that. I would need to learn more about the specific case, and maybe there's a specific example we can dig into and see what we can learn from it. If there's better coordination, or if our code is too lax, certainly open to looking at that. I'd probably need to learn more about. It seems like you have a case in mind, so maybe we can talk offline.
So this is going to be our last question, then we're going to break so that you can actually have something to eat and ask a question. He won't be able to eat, but you will.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I'm the CEO of this organization here, Conexión.
Thanks for hosting us.
All the time. I think the Raza Roundtable has always been in our facility. But the city helped us get this facility 17 years ago or something. And we have a lot of community programs that meet here on an ongoing basis. And we have a lot of youth programs. And we even have programs that we work with the homeless because they live across the street in the creek.
Yeah.
Or down below. Well, Aki was in front, and their doctors didn't want to come over here, this side of town. Okay, then they put in the track over here, or the sidewalk thing, and people were starting to run on it, and no one wants to go there now. And now we have, after June, we have to find someone to be in the space in front, and it's hard to show the space when they see you right across the street.
Yeah.
And before, the city would always not let them be right here, in front of by the walkway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really detrimental to us as an organization.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and part of the reason, and I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Homelessness, unsheltered homelessness in particular, is not only terrible for those who are homeless, but it has significant impacts. And as I was saying earlier, when I was out knocking on doors, I went in, I was coming out of the private sector, had been running a software company that promoted civic engagement, was on the train going up to San Francisco every day, and while I lived here, owned a home here, was starting to raise a family here, I wasn't actually paying that much attention to what was happening at City Hall. And when I went out and kind of got into this, I started by knocking on those 10,000 doors, and then had to do it again when I ran for mayor. And I was shocked at the number and the diversity of the personal stories that people had of the challenges posed by our homelessness crisis. And I realized how central it is. And I think it's why we can't wait for solutions that might end street homelessness in a couple of decades if we're really lucky. Because I think that's where we've been in recent years. And while we need to keep investing in affordable housing, we need to keep investing in workforce housing, we need to keep making it easier to build market rate housing, because fundamentally we have this big imbalance of jobs and housing. We ought to commit ourselves, not just as a city, as a county, and really as a state, to being shelter first and deciding what is a dignified enough form of shelter that we can offer to every person who needs it, so that nobody is condemned to live in the conditions you see across the street. Because we have underestimated the diverse and deep and broad impacts in our community of leaving almost 5,000 people to suffer and die on our streets. And it's... Yeah.
A lot of them have jobs, they just, don't have a place to take a shower or eat or anything. And with this going on, we know everyone's in the creek. Some of our clients live in the creek.
Yeah.
But being up above here in the city property, it's really detrimental to our students that are in high school classes here. We have a lot of youth programs and
Well, I'm happy to follow up with you on that specific case. And look, the city does abate encampments. It's not our preferred option. We can do it if there are the right conditions, if it's blocking public right-of-way, if there's an immediate public safety risk. There are some zones where we've now started to prohibit encampments, like right around a school, for example. We've had safety issues with kids getting on and off campus. We, in a limited sense, have some areas where you're not allowed to camp. We also do abatements when an encampment gets to a level of trash, biohazard, other vectors like rats. I mean, we will get to a point where sometimes we have to come in and ask people to move just so we can clean up an area. So we do abatements. And we can talk about the specific circumstances, and it may be appropriate for scheduling an abatement. The reason I say it's not our preferred approach is that it's very intensive. It costs a lot of your money to hire teams to go out and move people. It's not very effective because people end up just going 2 blocks down. It's very traumatic for them and for the city staff who have to do it. But, yeah. Well, that's why no one should be living outside in unmanaged conditions. And I don't care how simple the shelter is, we need to offer a safe, managed, staffed alternative to unmanaged encampments immediately. We can't wait 20 years. So I share the sense of urgency. On a specific encampment, we can talk offline about whether or not it's appropriate for abatement. That's not my call. I can tell you what some of the factors are. Ultimately, our professional staff will decide if it's eligible for abatement. We just have to all recognize that what it basically does is move people down a couple of blocks, and we use precious public dollars to move people without getting much more of an impact. But it is sometimes appropriate, and why don't we follow up and see, I can connect you with folks to see if this is a case where it is.
So this is what I'm going to ask now. Oh, good. I just wasn't sure I was projecting. I have such a timid voice. We are going to break for something to eat because all of you have many questions still left. But you said partners, and you needed to partner with the county. And to me, that entity, county, doesn't leave me in a place to go. But there's 2 persons here that represent the county. And I see one of them taking copious notes, Betty here, and Damian Wright in the back, who is the director of Department of Family and Children's Services. So make sure that if you have any questions of them, ask them. If anything you heard here, if there's anything the county can do to be a better partner, this is a good opportunity at least to talk to the mayor about it. But with that, because I'm not going to take all of your time, this is also the council member's district.
That's right.
And he's here every month, and he has the absolute right to always have a say. So
he gets the rebuttal.
But hopefully just a comment.
I just got to thank you very much. I just got a quick comment regarding abatement. That what we're doing is just chasing tail. And every single department and other people out there see the same problems. And that's why I champion the San Jose Love, Lifting Up Lives, which is these pre-sprung up structure that can be put up 60 to 90 days. San Francisco doing it, San Diego doing it, Reno doing it. And what it does is it's saving lives, bringing our unhoused or unsheltered residents into a place where they can have a little bit of dignity, respect, locked doors with surrounding services. That's including health care. That's including mental illness and drug addiction. Now, my program, it can be contract or it can be expand. And it can be quickly applied throughout the whole city as a whole. Because if we don't do anything right now, I guarantee you, when San Francisco and Oakland be successful, where do you think our unsheltered residents can be coming down to? Right here in San Jose, and we'll have a worse problem. In my newsletter, in my website, we have a more detail, and I just implore you to go ahead and take a look at it. And we, as a whole, we have to solve this problem. For the last 25, 30 years, I've already asked the question, it hasn't got us too far. We have to try something new. And the mayor, he's able to think out of the box. I'm thinking out of the box. We have to try something new. And if we can't say it's going to be a failure if we haven't been tried it yet. And then the last thing I want to leave is that I do have a meet with your council member we call Burrito with Bien at Orojo's on April 6th at 11 a.m. When we'll talk about any issues that you have. We'll talk about the budget. I know it's going to be extremely difficult this year, but we collectively come together, work on it together, and we'll find the solution that we all need. And I want to say thank you again to the La Raza, and next time I'm going to wear my mauve jacket just to beat up on Bob a little bit, because he's always outdressed me. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Keep in mind, this is the only outfit I own. But I want to thank you both very much, because they've come and said, give us your ideas, give us your thoughts. If you don't give them, somebody with money will. Somebody with a different point of view will. So please take the opportunity to talk to them tonight. Send in information to the website. We'll see what we can get with the radio, so we get that too, but it's important that they hear from you. So lastly, I just want to say thank you all very much. There is a cake here that says, "Hail to the Chief." And I don't know what song Rose plans to sing, but we're all going to be interested. So please, thank you all for coming tonight. Enjoy.